But maybe Fury actually called Usyk's bluff, kind of assuming that Tyson wasn't actually going to be ready.
Going on to Tyson Fury. So Tyson Fury, of course, called Oleksandr Usyk out, and they were going to have this big fight. I think it was Wembley. When he then said, listen, 70-30, Usyk said yes. I think we all never really expected that to happen. However, it looked like it was on. What is your understanding, Dev, of what went on there? Was it Usyk? Was it Fury? Do you know anything more than I know?
I mean, ultimately, it was Usyk that walked away from the fight. But everyone's come out and agreed that happened. I think what's happened here is the fight was meant to happen in Saudi Arabia, and with Saudi Arabia, there was going to be this much money, huge, life-changing money. When Saudi Arabia said, actually, we can't do it in April, we're looking at the end of the year, suddenly it became Wembley, April 29th, and it became this much money. And then Tyson Fury's looking at it and saying, okay, well, I deserve more of this. This is in the UK. This is in my backyard. So I deserve more of this. Usyk, take 30%. Usyk said yes. At that point, Usyk's got this much. So suddenly, in Usyk's toughest fight of his whole career, with the most on the line, 4 belts, he's gone from making this much Saudi money to making less than what he made in a defense against Anthony Joshua. So you've got to bear that in mind. You've got to bear in mind the financial difference between doing it at Wembley for 30% to doing it in Saudi Arabia for a huge amount of money. And there's rumors of talks with like Deontay Wilder behind the scenes, and they're trying to figure something out there. So maybe he's got whispers. I think there's whispers of, why don't you just wait and see if you can do it in Saudi? See if you can come for your fights. Do it in Saudi. The fight's still there, and it will make loads and loads more money. Or maybe Wilder in the USA, if they can figure it all out, maybe that makes more money than 30% of a Wembley pot against Tyson Fury. I think there's so many things to factor in. And there's talk of Usyk called Fury's bluff by accepting 30%. But maybe Fury actually called Usyk's bluff, because Usyk called Fury's bluff. This is what I'm hearing, kind of assuming that Tyson wasn't actually going to be ready, because that was what the talk was. So he goes, yeah, all right, yeah. I'll take that. April 29th, 30%. Come and then we go in. By the way, only April 29th. And that's what Usyk's team kept saying publicly. That 30% we will only accept for April 29th. When it emerged that Tyson was in fact ready, it became very real. And suddenly you are just getting 30% of a big Wembley pie, which is when the whole rematch thing coming up. All right, yeah, but 70-30 to us in the rematch. And it's very disappointing. It all ends with he said, she said. But ultimately, I think this whole thing falls apart because of what the money could have been in Saudi Arabia and what the money could yet be in Saudi Arabia. Remember, this is all of the marbles. So I don't think Usyk in particular would be taking a fight where he's making less than he did in his last fight when he's fighting a more difficult fight. And that's the position he found himself in.
It's a really interesting stance. Never thought of it like that. So that Fury kind of calling,
well, because everyone's obviously just blaming Tyson. It's all and the reason for that really is because Tyson is the one on the phone calling him this, calling him that, being aggressive in negotiations, and he's the vocal one, and he's seen as the kind of the bully in that piece. So he's going to get the blame. But there's a lot more to it than that. Fighters don't duck each other. Things fall apart largely over money and timing, and the money and timing perhaps is better later in the year. Should Tyson Fury still be the WBC champions? Should Usyk still be the WBA, the rest of the championships as well, if he can hold on to them? And Usyk will back himself to beat Daniel Dubois, beat whoever he needs to get to December. And Tyson, he hasn't got a mandatory on him. In theory, he could just sit out. I don't know what he's going to do, but that's the broader picture, which appears to be unfolding.